have these structures that unrelated structures, but those structures perform the same functions in the organisms where they are found. While in terms of divergence, they are almost related homologous structures. But one funny thing is that they carry out different functions. Is that clear? So he was able to prove all these things and say all that he said, but still there was a criticism in all his belief and proof of natural selection, which he cannot really prove how those similarities and characters came about, and then Mendel how to kind of destroy all his families and let him realize that those similarities and differences observed between parents and offspring is as a result of a factor known as what? Genes. As a factor known as genes. We have been talking about evolutions and the theories that is being come up, especially the two specialists or evolutionists, Jean Lambert and Charles Darwin. Now, there are evidences that they brought up because they saw, and they actually, that could, even we, might look at it and say of a truth, they are saying the correct thing, that all living things came from a combination of molecules of non-living things. Are you getting what I'm saying? To form a reasonable combined, and after that, they now mention that those ones, really simple ones, they form simple organisms, and those simple ones combine together to form complex after so many billions of years. But still, when we look at all these evidences, if we are trying to prove what their research is, or they have researched for, or what they have believed for. And when you look at it, somehow, you might still want to follow it as a truth, that human beings, they evolved from the same source of ancestors, or the same molecules, non-living things, after so many thousands and billions or hundreds of years. Okay, let's look at evidences involved in evolution. Are we ready? Evidences. So when we talk about evidence or evolution, is extremely slow process. Evolution, we know, is extremely slow process. First of all, it is difficult to obtain direct evidence. It is difficult as it were to obtain direct evidence of evolution in action. It is extremely difficult to obtain direct evidence of evolution in action. First up, scientists from many fields have gathered a great deal of indirect evidence to support their theory. I said that scientists from many fields have gathered a great deal of indirect evidences that support the theory of evolution. Theory of evolution. First of these evidences comes from many sources, including one. These evidences come from many sources, including one. Fossil record, evidence of fossil record. If you want to write it down, evidence of fossil record. We'll explain as we go on. These are preserved remains. These are preserved remains. That's as if it's left over. These are preserved remains or trace of animal, preserved remains or trace of animals, plants, and other organisms from the past. I repeat myself. I said fossil records are preserved remains or traits of animals, plants, and other organisms from the past. First stop. Fossils are important evidence of evolution. Fossils are important evidence of evolution. First of the age of fossil can be determined. The age of fossil, what do you mean? Those things that have been kept in record, for instance. Please don't write these ones. I said the age of fossils can be determined by scientific techniques such as radioisotope. In the isotopes, radioisotopes, such as radioisotope dating. I said the age of fossils can be determined by the scientific techniques such as radioisotope dating. What do you mean? There are some things, if you go to the museum, there are some things, even animals or bones of animals, some things you see that have been there for years, for donkey years. It could be rocks of different types and sizes, sediments that have been there, and they are telling you how this one. Or let me use, for instance, an example, like an isotope. There was a time we went to Osun State, at this palace, Oni of Ife. Before they were going to the museum, we saw some old things. They showed us, we entered one side of the bush, and they said this is part of the place of Oduduwa. I know most of you know the stories of Oduduwa. And it has been years upon years with a stature. These are examples of fossil. Some have stayed over 600 million years. There are a lot of things that are there. They'll start telling you the history of such things. We said that the age of so many fossils can be determined by using radioisotope dating. It could be we even saw the first skeleton of this early man. The early man, I don't know, history is no longer there now. That they are like this, as if they're skeletons. So wow, the early man that was found then, and how they strike to get what we call fire that they use in cooking. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. We saw it there, and we were telling the students the stories. These are kind of example of isotopes and evidences that can be shown or seen or that are being used, that things of the truth evolve from simple to complex or from non-living to a living thing after existing for millions of thousands of years, and they change to another one. So that is what we call radioactive evidence of fossil records. Now, it could even be sediments of rocks. How many of us have seen Olumo Rock? Some of you have visited Olumo Rock. I know those things have been there for donkey years. Donkey years. So many years, and the inside, I've never been there, but I have the history. I have seen it a little in pictures. I don't know if those women that said they were living there, whether they are still there. When we came to serve, as of that time, that was about how many years ago? Almost 30 years ago. They said as of that, then, that one of them is almost 150 years. Where they stayed, yes. Have you been there? You've never been to Olumo Rock? Wow. I heard about Olumo Rock before I came here as a couple. How many of you been there? Who else have been there? At least now they go there for you been there. Were you able to go and see those people? Yes. You didn't go there. You did. Look is very old now. Yes. She said no. Yes. One of them is this one. The oldest one is there. Okay, these are kind of what to call fossil records. She has not stayed up to that, but when you look at the rocks, in as much as they have treated it to look modernized, it's now a tourist center that people from different parts of the world come to the state to just go there and see those things. Am I saying something now? Are you getting what we mean by fossil records? So now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let's go. Fossils are not found in rocks. They are not found in rocks more than 600 million years. More than 600 million years. More than 600 million. Evidence from comparative anatomy. Who gave me that answer? Rest of you. You're the one that mentioned evidence from comparative anatomy. What do you understand by that?
Similarity to the internal organs of different.
Thank you. Different organisms that might belong to the same class or phylum. So let's go. This is the study of similarities and differences. The study of similarities and differences. The study of similarities and differences in the anatomy of different organisms. In the anatomy of different organisms. In the anatomy of different organisms. Full stop. This also provides an important evolutionary evidence. This also provides an important evolutionary evidence. For instance, there are structural similarities between all organisms. There are structural similarities between all organisms. For example, let's look at cellular structures. Cellular structures. I said, for example, when they said there are structural similarities between all organisms, for example, cellular structures. This similarity shows that the organisms evolved from the same ancestor. This similarity, cellular structures, shows that the organisms evolved from the same structures. Now let's just do a little bit to explain that. When we say cellular structures, now there are two major types of cells. Unicellular and multicellular, isn't it? The simple one. Initially when they come up with the theory, they said non-living things, the molecules, after so many years, combine together to form simple organisms, isn't it? And if that is the case, and you have the simple ones evolving, and you have the complex one evolving from the simple one. Now, whether be it simple or non-simple organisms, let me say living things, all of them have cells. Did I say something now? All of them have cells, even the microscopic ones. They are composed of cells, be it prokaryotic or eukaryotic. When we're talking about, let's use, for example, the unicellular ones. Taking amoeba, those ones, you know they are composed of cells as well. Now when you look at their structures, every part of the structure, in that structure, that shows that it's a living thing, contains anything to prove that it carries out all the activities every living thing can do. And that is the one we're made to understand, Mr. Najadi, isn't it? Yes. And when you come to living, both plants and animals, they all have cells. So because they all have cells, be it the simple one and the complex one. So the cells that they have that compose them shows if these microscopic ones have cells. Amoeba have cells, they have the ones for movement, they have the organs that make them to move, they have the organs that make them to feed, they have the organ that brings about growth, they have the organs that brings about reproduction, they have the organs that brings about digestion, to show that, and finally they will die. In as much as a single cell organism. Am I communicating now? Now go to the complex one. Let's use the multicellular ones, using you and I. There are different organs and organelles that helps us to carry out or to perform all the functions of Mr. Najadi. The same thing comes with plants, the microscopic ones, the Talophytes. Now let's take Chlamydomonas. It's a plant protist, isn't it? It has its own cell as a unicellular organism and microscopic. For Mr. Najadi, there are everything in terms of its organs and organelles that are there for them to carry out the function of a typical living thing. So if that is the cell, the same thing, that every living thing is composed of animals. So they believe that they all come from the same ancestors. And that is, the first one they proved was what? Was what? The combination of molecules to form simple things after so many years. Do we still remember that? Yes. My darling that is doing his eye pulling. Sorry. You're looking for who is doing his eyes pulling. Do we understand that one now? So now do you understand it?
Yes, ma'am.
That is another thing in terms of cooperative and not they said the differences and similarities being observed or seen in different organisms. So they believe in that. Another one is the presence of vestigial organs. Vestigial. I'm missing something here. I here. After G. Are you sure? Vestigial organs. Now, these are some organs that I found and noticed in some organisms, but they are not being used. So probably in the previous donkey many years, it was used in those organisms where they are found. But presently, it's no longer useful. But they are there within the body of the organism. Please, let's write before. What was the last sentence? Evolved from the same ancestor. Are we there? Another point to prove comparative analysis is said again the presence of vestigial organs. Vestigial organs. The presence of vestigial organs. certain homologous structures. Homologous. Certain homologous structures in some species have no apparent function. Certain homologous structures in some species have no apparent functions and are described as vestigial organs and are described as vestigial organs. In some of the textbooks, they have these vestigial organs as one of the evidence. It's the evidence of vestigial organs. It's still the same thing. We're still having it as an example of comparative anatomy. Am I saying something now? So these are, you have some organisms whereby they have some species of organisms where you have some organs, but the organs are not being used. So they have no function within. Typical example of such is appendix. You remember the structure of alimentary canal in human, appendix in human. You see where it is labeled and drawn. That is after showing the structure of the colon or large intestine. You remember that? You're just looking. I should make a structure. I should make a sketch diagram of the alimentary canal so that you see where the appendix is. I believe all of you should know that. Yes. If you're asked to draw it as an exam, you can comfortably do that. Yes? When I said I should make a structure, do I or do not? I should not. Huh? I should do. Please, when I ask, answer. You said example of vestigial organ is appendix. Appendix in human. So what do we have? Who am I drawing? Is it myself? Or just Tofumi?
No, ma.
Richard? Who said it's Richard? I'm not asking you to draw. I hope you know that. Huh? I just want to show you where we have don't ask me 5 minutes because you make me to draw 1 minute. At least you understand from here. So this is the stomach, this is the liver, the pancreas, the duodenum, the jejunum, the ileum, the colon or the large intestine. At the end of it here, this is where we have appendix, which is a vestigial organ here. It has no function within this place. But if there are food that are not properly digested and they mistakenly form inside it will begin to swell and result to a disease known as what? Appendicitis. So that is it here. It's a vestigial organ and it's not performing any specific function. So there is a belief that that thing has been there long ago and it functioned in the life of the ancestors then, but now does not have any function, but it's just there. It's a typical example of a vestigial organ. Another one is also the tail, the anal tail. All of us here have a tail. Do you know that? Huh? You have a tail, and that is what forms around what we have the sacrum under vertebral column. How many do we have? How many vertebral columns do we have? Are you sure it's 4? Yes. It's 5. Namely, thoracic, lumbar, and the caudal. That is the caudal. In human, we. Our own is just 4, but there are few. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. It is there, it doesn't perform any function, but they believe if all other mammals is prominent and appear like a tail, it's just like a tail. Am I saying something now? For us, it's a typical example of a vestigial organ. But for the other animals, some mammals, you have it, some are even about 16, like rats. And you see it waggles, you see it in cats and some other animals. But for we humans, they are vestigial. Am I saying something now? Another vestigial organ, virtually all mammals have the pinna. What's the pinna? The outer part of the ear. Now some of those vertebrates, other vertebrates, they don't have it. Doesn't mean they don't hear. Did I say something now? They are called auricular muscles. They are there. Even if I close it like this, I see here. I have seen somebody's pinna was cut off because of accident, yes? You know, we're talking about the mechanism. We said it vibrates. It receives vibration of the sound and carry it to, especially to the eardrum, or what to call what? The tympanic membrane, which is just there. So it's also an example of some of these vestigial organs, which means donkey years, the ancestors, especially in the mammals, they have them. There are others that are there, the other vertebrates, they don't have it, but they hear. Am I saying something now? So what probably they believe that they have it all this while. Another vestigial, or some of them, that they believe they had leg before, like snake. Did I say something now? Snake, they had legs. In so many years, although religiously, we believe because it was caused to crawl. But they had legs. That's what they believe. Before all of a sudden those things disappear. Am I saying something now? These are typical examples. I've seen an example where they ask them to list examples of vestigial organs. Although it's part of, if you say evidence of vestigial organs, apart from a part of the ones that you list, it will mark for you. Although sometimes they'll say, if you have written evidence of comparative anatomy and you also write the presence or evidence of vestigial organs, it might not actually be accepted. Then another example In time for these vestigial organs, I think I mentioned all, is okay, the metal tail, I've mentioned it, found in most mammals as a sacrum. Okay, let's quickly write. Again, the presence of vestigial organs. Certain homologous structures in some species have an apparent, do not have apparent functions, and are described as vestigial organs. Example, appendix in man. So we can say that the appendix in man, they act as, their functions are CAE in other herbivores, but in man no function. In herbivores, take note of that. Another example of vestigial organ is auricular muscles or ocular muscles. Muscles of the human hair, ocular muscles of human ear. Okay. Another example is the rudimentary tail. rudimentary, rudimentary tail. In brackets, sacrum, sacrum, S-A-C-R-U-M, sacrum. That is sacrum well developed in many other mammals. Now let's go to the third one, evidence of embryology. Evidence of embryology. Evidence of embryology, or what we call embryological evidence. Evidence of embryology or embryological evidence. The development of vertebrates. The development of vertebrates. In many cases, the development of vertebrates development of vertebrates in brackets. In many cases, the embryo of an organism resembles the embryos of its ancestors. Resembles the embryos of its ancestors. So, rudimentary. Of which one? Embryology. Okay. I said the development of vertebrates it in brackets. Then I said, in many cases, the embryo of an organism resembles the embryo of its ancestors. during certain transitory stages, resembles the embryos of the ancestors during certain transitory stages. When they are transmitted, stages of its level of its development, transitory stages of its development. First stop. For instance, I will explain. For instance, the development of vertebrates are similar. Development of vertebrates are similar. For example, the embryo of human in the womb at different stages of development. The embryo of human in the womb at different stages of development resembles the embryo of fish, amphibians, reptiles, fish, amphibians, reptiles, and birds. Full stop. Another point, the gill slits, gill, G-I-L-L, slits, S-L-I-T-S, the gill slits of fish, you know the gills, slits of fish. Have two chambers heart. Like that of reptiles. Like that of reptiles. And are obvious, they are obvious facts to show that human beings evolved through the fish. Evolved through the fish, amphibians, reptile, and mammals lineage. Mammals lineage. Stop. Let me tell you the truth. When you look at the embryology of the development of these new embryos at the same stage, if you see the pictures, especially in few months, depending, you know there are stages. You can't say which one is fish. You cannot say which one is reptile or human being. They look alike. You can't even say which one is bird. At a certain stage, when those fish begin to show forth, if you now see a certain month in human womb, and look at the bird, the way it's sitting, the embryo, and look at that of then, some features are showing, and look at human being, you cannot differentiate it, except if you know. So with this evidence, they believe that human being started from the fishes, because you see the tail. And another evidence or example, at the early development of a bird, when they open the mouth of a bird, you see the portion showing bud of tooth. You know, birds does not have teeth. You know, when you have a newborn baby, you see the jaw. And when you look at it, you see the areas that are showing teeth will come out there one day. Now, the early development of the birds showed a tooth bud. And you know they don't have teeth. So they believe in that early development of the embryo of a bird shows tooth board. Definitely their ancestors then, they have teeth. Yes. That is what they are doing. If you see it now, you will believe it. If you have new chicken, at that time, open the mouth if you can. A day old, just as they hatch. They have, but after some time, the things disappear. So with that, they believe that even human being, we started from the fish. If at the early stage, everything about the embryological structure are like. They also believe in terms of the heart. I am sure you did the heart structure when you begin to study double circulation. You drew the diagram. I think we'll start from there. So I'll be able to draw it. No, the first thing that the fish has only 2 chamber hearts. Do we remember? Just only 2 chamber hearts, and they exhibit only one circuit. That's a single circulatory system. Just one single like that. From the head to back to the body and back to the heart. So just one chamber heart. As time goes on, the amphibians shows about 2.5. Because one, you know, they have the ventricle and the ventricle. So we have the first atrium, the left and the right. And that is partially, you have a complete partition, the setting of the atrium, while the ventricle, nothing. So that's showing us almost 3 chamber hearts. Then when you come to the reptiles, they show 2.5. Am I saying something now? I don't know if that this diagram was drawn or you have it in your note. It was explained when you're talking about double circulation in evolutionary trends of how the heart started. This is a typical example of embryological evidence of embryology in terms of evolution. Now, that is for the amphibians. When you now get to the reptiles, the atrium is completely partitioned. Then you now have the ventricle, which is half, not fully partitioned. While in amphibians, while in fishes, just 2. So here they have 3 chamber and a half. The amphibians, they have 3 chamber hearts. The reptiles, they have 3 chamber and a half. Then when you now come to the birds, they have a complete 4 chambers of the heart. And that is what results to what type of circulation? How many types of circulation? Double circulation. And in that double circulation, we have 2 things that are involved. Pulmonary and what is pulmonary? From okay, and the other one is back to the heart, and that is it. Now, if you don't know before and they keep showing it, would you somehow believe that you evolved from? I don't talk about me, I said you. I might say something now. But on the more serious, when you look at the embryology, development of the embryos, even in the womb, some of us, if we watch documentaries or doctors in DSTV, at times they show such thing. You can see how it goes. And if you see that of fish in the egg developing, as if they have tails, everything is the same in the early stage, from the fishes, the amphibians, the reptiles, and that of human. You cannot differentiate it. And it's the early 3 stages until finally you know this. So they believe all of us who came from the same ancestor before we started changing ourselves or showing what after so many years. For me, God created me, I never differentiated. So it's time. Okay? We'll continue from here and explain it better. Any questions so far? Any question?